Good afternoon and welcome to my ARTS3091 vlog on the topic of networks, changing communities and economies. Since first starting to study arts and media issues way back when, a profound topic has been the relationship between media technologies and ourselves, the users, and predominantly looking at the active user, so active audience theories, and our understanding of that we are both the producer and the consumer, and that these productions and consumptions are all happening in real time on a global scale with no boundaries, restrictions, with the help of social media, portable media, wireless internet, etc. Today what I want to have a look at is the shared economy and how the shared economy is defining new ways of media technologies within our communities and within economic life. So to do so, we're going to start with just a quick definition. So in the lecture, Professor Andrew Murphy spoke briefly about networks and how networks are being driven into transition, and that communities are now in transition, and we're focused on a shift in paradigm rather than prescribing solutions. So this shift and these profound paradigms we're talking about are, of course, how network technologies, networks, algorithms, and how the internet is embedded and transitioning our lifestyle, our communities, and our economies. So one such shift that is occurring is this shift into what's known as the shared economy or sharing economy. So first of all, we'll take a quick look at a definition from Wikipedia about the sharing economy on screen. I'm also going to take note while that's on screen of a definition that was from one of our integral readings from Forbes, the article Why the Collaborative Economy is Changing Everything. So it says the sharing economy, sometimes also referred to as the peer-to-peer economy, mesh, collaborative economy and collaborative consumption, and we'll also talk about the differences further on in the vlog within these definitions and perhaps what they all have in common. It's a socio-economic system built around the sharing of human and physical resources. It includes the shared creation, production, distribution, trade and consumptions of goods and services by different people and organisations. These systems take a variety of forms, often leveraging information technology to empower individuals, corporations, non-profits and government with information that enables distribution, sharing and reuse of excess capacity in goods and services. A common premise is that when information about goods is shared, the value of those goods may increase for the business, for individuals and for the economy. So looking at the shared economy or sharing economy, we're going to take a look at Rachel Batesman's article in Fast Coexist, The Sharing Economy Lacks a Shared Definition, so defining what this sharing economy really is and what it means. So Botsman says in her article in fastcoexist.com, The Sharing Economy Lacks a Shared Definition. It was just a matter of time before a wide mix of people would see that they were at the start of a profound transformation in the way technology could create the efficiency and trust to match millions of haves with millions of wants in ways and on a scale never before possible. So again, this really relates to what Professor Murphy was saying about us being in a period of transition. Botsman talks about the way we could think about supply and demand, and this idea would change, and this relationship between buyers and suppliers will be disrupted, and the person formerly known as the consumer will now get what they need and want from each other, thus taking control from big centralized companies. Botsman has a really good synthesis of this idea. She is coined one of the global thought leaders in power collaboration. She talks about collaborative economy and collaborative consumption, and then moves into sharing economy and peer-to-peer economy. Within the collaborative consumption, she defines this as a model based on sharing, swapping, trading or renting products and services, enabling access over ownership. It is reinventing not just what we consume, but how we consume it. And she has 3 subcategories: collaboration lifestyle, distribution markets, and product service systems. Interestingly, her collaboration lifestyle definition is non-product assets such as space, skills, and money are exchanged in new ways. We can bring this into a really nice segue into sharing economy, which she defines as an economic model based on sharing underutilized assets, from spaces to skills to staff, for monetary or non-monetary benefits. It is largely focused on P2P marketplaces, so P2P marketplaces. So that's a really nice segue from going from the collaborative consumption of collaborative lifestyle, where the aspect that's missing is the monetary value, which is then brought into the shared economy. Some examples she lists of shared economy is Airbnb, Lyft, Get Around, and these examples will also go through towards the end of the vlog. She also defines peer-to-peer economy as person-to-person marketplaces that facilitate the sharing and direct trade of products and services built on peer trust. I think a really good example of this is Etsy, which is a virtual marketplace where consumers can buy from each other goods and products that they've made themselves. And the underlying value with all these economies is collaboration, empowerment, openness, and humanness, all of which were also discussed by Professor Murphy in his lecture. Interestingly, sharing economy is much debated, and many theorists and opinion pieces and journalists have their own take on how the sharing economy affects the real economy and where it will be leading us into the future. In one of our readings, the article by Jacob Morgan in Forbes, Why the Collaborative Economy is Changing Everything, introduced me to one of the profound collaborative leaders who is really pushing the initiative of sharing economy, Jeremiah Ouyang, who is also the co-founder of Crowd Companies, which helps to direct companies into a sharing economy. And he has produced what is known as the collaborative economy honeycomb. In the article, the honeycomb is consistent of 6 sections. However, since then, Jeremiah has extended this honeycomb, which he released in a press conference at La Web in 2014 in Paris, and he's expanded this honeycomb to include the health and wellness sector, numerical sector, learning sector, etc. We'll look at a few of these examples. What this is showing us is that, from Jeremiah's point of view, the sharing economy is expanding and growing, and different sectors and industries are introducing themselves to the sharing economy. And what the sharing economy model is really focused on is the sharing of underutilized assets, resources, spaces, and skills for monetary or non-monetary benefits. So in one sense, you can use facilities online, such as learning applications, that may not necessarily have a monetary cost, but you're benefiting from it intellectually. So I think the sharing economy in that sense is a really useful tool, and it eliminates the need for a middleman. So you don't necessarily need to go to a learning institution or tutorials or extra tutoring. You can get those extra resources and learning from online. And that's what the sharing economy is all about, sharing our knowledge, information, and resources with others. This hinges a lot on our trust with others and that building of community, and in essence building those social interactions, which Botsman and Jeremiah are really quite passionate about. And for them, that's what the sharing economy is all about. However, there is a lot of critiques on the sharing economy, and a lot of the articles within our readings explored this. So I'm just going to read a few of the critiques on the sharing economy before delving into some examples. So Alexandra Teller from the LA Times offers an opposing viewpoint on the idea of the sharing economy in her article. The sharing economy isn't collaborative consumption, it's disaster capitalism. She notes that we are celebrating a system that at its core reflects of desperate times, that people are using services such as Uber to make quick money between jobs, that the economy of sharing is tied to the economic recession, and that sharing and homesteading are things poor people have been doing forever out of necessity. That it is all about a quick buck in order to survive troubled times. Although many share her views, if we look at it critically, we can also note that the economy of sharing isn't just about getting people out of the recession. It is about using the facilities, services, resources that we are surrounded by and looking at them in a new perspective. Using things that are perhaps going to go to waste, like an unused apartment, and turning it into a resource for another's advantage. And here again, we can look at what Botsman talks about in terms of millions of haves with millions of wants and being able to utilize the resources that we already have. However, we can also see Alexandra's points when we turn to look at the tragedy of the commons, and that we are attempting to use and abuse resources for monetary gain without thinking of the consequences, others, or how it affects our future and long-term perspectives, and that all people are looking for is how to get a quick buck in their pocket. Another article that was quite critical within the reading was the shareable.net, why banning Uber makes Seoul even more of a sharing city. So Neil Gaflow's article regards how Seoul City, which is in Korea, rejects Uber. And he says, bravo Seoul. Develop a local solution for taxi hailing and not selling technologies that further concentrate control and wealth into fewer hands. Within his article, there was a video on Bruce Sterling's speech in Barcelona. And he says, if Uber takes over your town, they have all the power that these taxi drivers have and more. You'll be worse off facing them, the Uber institution, rather than taxis. Uber's got billions of dollars that taxi corporations don't. And you're just offshoring all of these functions to Silicon Valley. And he says, in essence, to the Barcelonian people that your streets are a commodity for distant exploiters. So it's a smart city being run by Californians. So what he's trying to say here is that you've got resources in the streets of Barcelona, yet you're using tools from California to run your city. So in essence, I can really see what he's trying to say here is that you have the capability within your own street, within your own community, within your own nation to figure out solutions that might be more localized and keeping money running through your own system rather than bringing in these applications and these offshore accounts to run the city seemingly easier. So I think in essence his point here is just again to keep that money within your own streets. I mean, again, we can look at this from another perspective that Uber actually offers locals services that maybe they once didn't have and can still retain that money within the society. But again, here the point is all just about learning to do things in innovating ways within your own space rather than bringing in these shared economy applications that have a host in another country. Again, and finally, we'll look at one more critique of it, and it's from the newinquiry.com blog Authentic Sharing. And Rob Horning says, when sharing is market mediated, when a company is an intermediary between consumers who don't know each other, it is no longer sharing at all. Rather, consumers are paying to access someone else's goods or services for a particular period of time. It is an economic exchange, and consumers are after utilitarian rather than social value. Companies like Lyft and Airbnb do nothing to facilitate that sort of interaction. Indeed, they thrive by doing the opposite. they subsume more types of interaction and exchange to market structures, which then they mask by handling all the money for the parties involved. This affords users the chance to pretend to themselves that the exchange has stemmed from some meaningful rather than debased and inauthentic commercial connection, all while keeping a safe distance from the other party. So what Horning's trying to say here is that this whole sharing economy is just rather ironic, that the sharing economy is based on an idea of building a social interaction and trust within people, yet ironically you're using this web host, Airbnb for example, to interact with another host, but you don't meet with them, you don't see them, and ironically you're actually losing the whole value of it being a meaningful and sociable interaction. So the critiques of sharing economy extend beyond imagination, and like every idea and theorist, there are always critiques, positives and negatives. I think with the sharing economy, what it does bring to life is the ability for us to use technology as a mediator and as a source for innovation. I think what Airbnb does is a really excellent facility, and it's using resources that are being underused. So we can look at it as, instead of getting rid of thousands of homes to build hotels, we can use those homes as host hotels. So on one hand, what it's doing is a really excellent service. I guess on the other hand, the corporations are losing out. For some activists, that's what they want. They want that middleman diminished. And for others, they see that middleman and those corporations as economic income and profitability. So I guess it really depends where you stand on the idea of sharing economy. I think in essence it brings about lots of great opportunities for students, especially for media savvy, for technologically savvy consumers. I think the ones that will fear sharing economy the most are the ones that are not adapting to a media landscape. And that's really where our life is heading. So in conclusion, it's been a really fun topic to explore, sharing economy and collaborative economy and where we're going in the future, and how everyone has their own idea of what the sharing economy is. Even in class, when we were discussing the sharing economy, some great points that were brought up was the sharing economy allows you to share the resources between each other and connect on social levels, doing something that you wouldn't necessarily do without that shared economy. Another student's topic was Uber sells itself with the sharing sense. If we want to be critical, perhaps all of this is just an advertising spin and a marketing plan, and it's just there for the potential of making social connections. And again, questioning about resources and the sharing of these resources that are unused resources, and it makes for quite an interesting topic, and the disruption of traditional industries. So bringing in innovation to traditional industries and taking away power from these centralized companies were some of the great topics we discussed in class, and I think it's a really interesting viewpoint, and everyone's personal opinion and experiences will definitely negate how they feel about the sharing economy.